Collapse changes people, even when the war ends, even when the survivors return, even when the buildings are rebuilt. Something inside them remains altered, because exile is not only physical, it is psychological, the feeling of becoming disconnected from home, identity, meaning, memory itself. And this is the atmosphere surrounding Book of Ezra, not conquest, not destruction, but the strange emotional reality of trying to rebuild after everything familiar has already broken. Welcome to Code of Scripture. This afternoon, we enter Ezra, a book about return, restoration, reconstruction. But beneath the historical events lies something deeply human, the struggle to remember who you are after surviving collapse. Because rebuilding structures is easy compared to rebuilding identity. Ezra begins after exile. Jerusalem has fallen. The temple has been destroyed. The people have lived displaced inside a foreign empire. And eventually, they are allowed to return home. But one of the most important details in Ezra is often overlooked. The people returning are not the same people who left. Exile changed them. Generations were born far from their homeland. Children grew up surrounded by foreign systems. Languages shifted, customs blurred, memories faded. And perhaps this is what exile truly does. It slowly weakens the emotional connection between people and their original identity. The people begin rebuilding the temple, but something unusual happens. Some rejoice, others weep. Why? Because the older generation remembers what was lost. The new foundation exists, but it does not fully resemble the original glory. And this moment contains one of the deepest psychological truths in Scripture. Rebuilding after collapse is emotionally complicated because survival itself changes perception, even when restoration begins. People quietly mourn what can never fully return. The structure may rise again, but innocence does not. Another major theme inside Ezra is separation from surrounding influence. Not because outsiders were inherently evil, but because identity dissolves gradually through assimilation. Cultures survive through memory, through rituals, through shared meaning repeated across generations, and exile disrupts all of it over time. People begin adapting to the systems surrounding them. The foreign becomes familiar, the temporary becomes permanent, and eventually, entire civilizations forget who they originally were. This may be one of the most modern ideas hidden inside Ezra, because modern society constantly pressures identity toward convenience, speed, and consumption, and under enough pressure, people begin forgetting what once grounded them. Ezra repeatedly emphasizes records, scrolls, names, and laws. This matters symbolically, because memory becomes survival technology. When civilizations collapse, physical structures disappear first, but preserved meaning can outlive destruction. The scrolls represented continuity, a way of transmitting identity through chaos. And perhaps this explains why ancient cultures obsessed over remembrance. Because forgotten people become easier to reshape, memory protects psychological continuity. Without it, human beings become vulnerable to whatever system replaces the old one. Today, many people experience a form of exile without ever leaving their country. Digital overstimulation, cultural fragmentation, algorithmic identity, constant distraction. People feel disconnected from community, purpose, spirituality, even themselves. Modern exile is often internal. A feeling of existing everywhere, while belonging nowhere. And perhaps this is why Ezra still resonates thousands of years later, because it speaks to the human need for reconstruction after disorientation, not merely rebuilding careers or routines, but rebuilding meaning. Ezra is not simply about returning home, it is about discovering that home itself has changed. And so have you. The temple can be rebuilt, the walls can rise again, the city can recover. But survival leaves psychological fingerprints, and perhaps true restoration begins not when structures are repaired, but when people remember who they are beneath the collapse. This was code of scripture, Ezra, the exile, and sometimes the hardest journey is not escaping destruction, but rebuilding identity after surviving it.